Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Retro Pop Planet and welcome back to the long-awaited part 2 of my Dave Grohl Storyteller Guide to Northern Virginia. So this is part 2. And thank all of you subscribers and friends of mine that actually related some of your own personal Dave Grohl memories in the area. Much appreciated. I really got a kick out of hearing different random places that you ran into Dave Grohl. From Home Depot. I have a friend of mine that met him back in college. I guess Dave was probably with his first wife, and it was at Lake Accotink Park. Really funny story about how Dave Grohl wanted to rent out a kayak, but all of them were taken. My friend sort of interceded because nobody knew who he was. So that was a funny story. And that would have happened right around here. Also, I had a friend that ran into him at a restaurant in a place called Shirlington, which is in like Alexandria, Arlington area. So again, thanks for all of those fun comments. I really enjoyed reading them. And I'm glad that you guys are back here joining me because I thought I lost these videos. I had a complete computer meltdown and I was lucky to find these videos because I had traveled all over the region in search of Dave Grohl, and it was a lot of driving. So I'm really happy that I was able to find these videos and that I can share them with you today. So of course I have heavily relied on 2021's publishing. This was Dave Grohl's personal autobiography. It's called The Storyteller. And in this video, we're gonna document some of those places that he speaks about. Now, to catch you up to speed, probably for myself actually, I need to remember where we are in the timeline. My last video ended with a trip to Dave Grohl's house, the house he grew up in with his mom and his sister. His parents were divorced. His dad lived somewhere in Arlington. His mom lived in North Springfield. And the last place that we officially visited was Annandale High School, which is the school that he dropped out of to join the band Scream his senior year. So in the timeline right now, we're roughly around like 1987-ish. And from here, Dave travels around the world with Scream, living in vans, crashing friends' couches, kind of a homeless guy, just going from venue to venue, sometimes even sleeping on stage next to their band equipment. And we're sitting around like 1990 or so. Dave, of course, does visit his mom a lot. Him and his mom are very close, so he does travel back to Northern Virginia. All right, guys, I hope you can hear me. It's pretty windy out here. This is a different day. Obviously, this video is over the course of several weekends. And somewhere out here was the site of the original WGNS Studios, which was a small independent cassette record label. And they had a recording studio in what they talk about on their website as a crappy rental unit on Church Street in Belly's Crossroads. Now, I will show you that this location is probably lost to time because Church Street is a very, very short road and there's like maybe one house on it. And I don't know if the original house that they lived in was actually torn down or not. Now, in 1991, I believe, when he still was the drummer for Scream, he recorded an album here of just him. He recorded all the instruments and it was an independent release. And then in 1996, he recorded with them again, but the location had moved to Washington, D.C., and that's where he recorded the album release of Walking After You, and I believe the instrumental version of Everlong. So as you can see, we are at the corner of Payne and Church, and it is a very small street, and all that's really on here is a church. And then right next to the church are a bunch of houses here on Payne Street. And then the only other house is this not crappy home here. That's the only house actually on Church, but there is a huge vacant lot. And I'm assuming there were houses here at some point in time. Again, it's been over 30 years. Across the street, there's a sign that actually says no restaurant parking. So I'm assuming, I don't know, this was restaurants or houses or something, but who knows? Again, lost in time. When the band's not on tour, he mentions in the book that he actually picks up some gigs. So we're gonna go to some of those locations where I think he might have worked.
All right, in a completely unnecessary location, but as I was reading Dave Grohl's The Storyteller book, he references Shakey's Pizza as one of his jobs that he had growing up as a teenager. And I did a little bit of internet research, but growing up in this area, I don't remember there being a Shakey's. So I talked to a couple buddies who have lived in this area their entire lives, and I did a lot of deep diving on the internet. Apparently, this guy named McGill owned the only Shakey's pizzas that were here. I think there was like 3 or 4 in Northern Virginia. He actually dropped the Shakey's branding and opened up this pizza parlor. Unfortunately, they did not survive the pandemic and they had to close, but I have a feeling this is one of the job sites where Dave Grohl actually worked. He also references a furniture store, which could either be, I don't know, maybe Hub is one I'm told was pretty big in Annandale, and also Marlowe Furniture is a large one in this area. But we are in Annandale. This is the former site of McGill's and Shakey's Pizza, and let me know if Dave Grohl did actually work here.
And then while living in LA during a tour, one of the band members up and leaves the band. Dave sort of takes a step towards history, answers an open call for an up and coming band that's looking for a drummer up in Seattle, Washington. Of course, that's gonna be Nirvana. He goes up to Washington, has a really strong connection with Kurt Cobain, moves in with Kurt in Olympia, Washington in a small apartment. Once the band takes off, he purchases his first home in Seattle. And then after Kurt's tragic passing, he mentions in the book that he buys a beach house as far away from Washington as he could get, which to him was the Outer Banks of North Carolina. It's Corolla. I've actually been to Corolla. I'm interested to know if the house still exists. But at this point in time, he is debating whether or not he even wants to continue on in music. He's in his early 20s and he's having a soul-searching life crisis. But he does have an idea for a bunch of songs, and he gets back together in Seattle with a guy that he's known since he was in high school. And we're gonna visit a neighborhood where I think he had done some recording sessions when he was a lot younger, when he was Scream. But then that, of course, is Laundry Room Studios.
We're now on North Upland Street in Falls Church, Virginia. And this was one of the homes of Laundry Room Studios, which was basically a house who was owned by producer and engineer Barrett Jones. Now, this is another one of those locations where I can get to the general area, but I have no idea which is the actual home. But he had recorded with Barrett Jones in a previous Arlington, Virginia home, and then Barrett Jones moved to Seattle, Washington, and recorded some of just legendary acts, including the Foo Fighters and Nirvana and Presidents of the United States of America and numerous other bands. It's an absolutely gorgeous neighborhood. It's unfortunately, I just don't know which house that it was recorded in. Know which house it was, let me know. Basically, Laundry Room Studios, it was just that. It was a control booth which was off of the owner's laundry room. Now, I don't know if that was the Route 50 location or if that was this location and the name just carried over. If you know which house it is, leave me a comment.
And Dave actually records his debut Foo Fighters album at Laundry Room Studios, which is now in Seattle, playing most of the instruments by himself with the exception of one song. And one of the song titles is actually named after a local, what used to be a chain of fast food restaurants, which is now down just to one location. We're gonna go there in this video.
Hey, you know what this is? It's the Weenie Beanie.
So you know, right around the corner is a fucking Weenie Beanie. First time I recorded that song, I was like, I don't have a title for this song. So I saw that Weenie Meanie, I was like, fuck it, let's just call it Weenie Meanie. I feel like we should do Weenie Meanie right now. Actually, you know what? I think that first recording that we ever did of Weenie Meanie, my sister played guitar. No, she played bass on it. Because my sister and I were like, yeah, let's start a band. Let's fucking me and you be in a band together. And then after like 1 week, we were like, no, fuck. It's called Weenie Meanie, it sounds like that.
I'm not eating anything today, but normally when I'm in the area, I get the half smoke.
But that debut album unexpectedly blows up, and all of a sudden he has to form a band around his set list. So he has a rotating crop of characters over the years, and I believe it's their third album where Dave buys a bachelor home in Arlington, Virginia to get away from Hollywood, to get away from a lot of those pressures of recording. He sets up his own 24-track recording studio in the basement of his home, calls on his cast and crew. Taylor Hawkins moves in. They basically just get up in the morning. He mentions they eat chili, they drink a lot of beer, they write, and they play music. And we're gonna go visit that house also.
All right, guys, I'm standing outside of a church at the moment, and this is not a location for this video. I'm standing here because I just got to see Dave Grohl's house, the house that he owned in Alexandria, where they recorded virtually their entire Grammy Award-winning third studio album. He had built a 24-track recording studio in the basement, and they recorded it almost for free. I will include a couple clips from the limited video that I did record. It is a very, very private street. There's some beautiful old homes around here. It is a no-through street, so I only walked a little ways up. You could see that there were multiple cars in the driveway, so I didn't want to be super creeper mode. And it is very wooded property, and the house actually, the color of the house actually matches the woods around it. So there are multiple articles on this property, so I will actually include a couple photos if I can. I could not include this location on the tour. We are on the campus of George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia. We are only several miles away from that Lake Braddock Community Center where Dave Grohl played his first set of shows when he was in high school, only to find himself back here with the Foo Fighters. The show I went to, it was a 2003 show. Pretty epic because his mom was actually in the audience, and during the show it was very personal. He would stop and talk to the audience, tell us about all the times he skipped school in high school, all the different drugs he would take, all the times he would get drunk, and all the different places where he would go. It was kind of funny because every time he would go into a long story, he would say, "Hey mom, earmuffs." The camera would pan into his mom, and she would just be kind of like shaking her head and just like, yep, she'd probably heard all these stories before. It's called Eagle Bank Arena now, but it used to be known as the Patriot Center. This rebranding is just a couple years old. So if you're looking up concert directory, so many bands have played here. We don't get that many anymore. The draw, the venue is kind of older, and there are so many more new and modern venues in Washington, D.C. now. But back when I was in high school, I saw Meat Puppets open for Stone Temple Pilots. Probably one of the most epic concerts I've ever been to was here also. It was John Spencer Blues Explosion opened up for Beastie Boys on their Sabotage tour. That's probably the best concert I've ever been to. I've also seen bands like Muse here, aforementioned Foo Fighters, and also I saw Incubus here. Artists that have played here, Sting has played here actually multiple times. Peter Gabriel has played here. Linkin Park, I believe, has played here. Green Day has played here several times. I think they played here on their Dookie tour. Unfortunately, Nirvana never played here, so I never got a chance to see them live. They played one show in Washington, D.C. at the 930 Club, which is a really famous old venue in Washington, D.C. That Nirvana concert was in 1991. So here we are at the loading dock of Eagle Bank Arena, and this is also where the sports teams' buses will park, and also all of the concert tour buses, all the different bands that have played here over the years. This is, you know, the general area where you'll see their tour buses parked. And here's the service entry and the loading bay doors. So all of the band equipment will generally get pushed through here, and the band entrance, you know, band members would go in through here, as well as, you know, sports teams and everything else. Okay, now we're in a cool little area known as Arlandria, which is a pocket community in the middle of Alexandria and Arlington, which is where the name Arlandria came from. And of course, it was popularized in the 2011 Foo Fighters song of the same name, Arlandria. Unfortunately, the video was actually filmed in San Francisco. This is one of the really awesome murals. It's the entire front-facing side of this building.
Okay guys, welcome back. I think that's gonna do it. As I mentioned in the video, there's a lot of locations where I'm not definitive on their set place. That's because if you know anything about Northern Virginia, a lot of these locations don't even really exist anymore. I hope you've enjoyed following along with this series. If there's more stuff I can come up with, I'm happy to go check it out. So let me know what you think. I hope you enjoyed this series. I really had a blast doing this. It's just fun to sort of have this connection. You feel like you have a much more personal connection to someone that you followed pretty much your whole life, or you've been a fan of their art. And this was really fun for me, and I hope you've enjoyed following along. And if you did, if you could leave me a comment and please give it a like, that definitely helps with the weird YouTube algorithm. And hit the subscribe button. I'm pushing out a little bit more content these days now that I have a functioning computer. I'll catch you guys in the next video.